playing a video game, the guy walked over and said he was giving me the money. They keep using the same weird answers. I talked about what Max Payne was actually doing over here, and they came up with that we were never there. Also, there's spray painted Karis everywhere because they wanted to feel like they had done nothing when they actually were attacking 800 Joanne continuously, trying to get other people into trouble, saying it was normal. Like, all I was doing was on my own phone. Yep, they're trying to say that they sent all their friends to different bus stops. What they were doing when they were actually having me sit there and then putting up signs and driving off saying that the bus stop was closed. Yeah, not just in this city, several cities. No reason. Said that if a person could remember, they just change it a lot and say it was something different. Same place where Joey sat me down saying it was San Francisco spot only because San Francisco hadn't caught all the serial killers. Spray paint right there. The same thing they used to do directly in front of me over and over again, saying it was my fault that there was defacing all over the place and nobody liked this place. Very strange. Yep, and they tried to steal it from my Bank of America account continuously, and there was already a budgeting system on the actual online accounts, and they just went deranged trying to make that into that it was a virus. That was not smart. Yep, and then they started defacing the Lion Stand in Glendale because they felt like it. And then somebody says it's in Silver Lake, depending on how they feel, they'll say that it was not there either when it was. Same spot. Saying that people couldn't call the police correctly, that's why it was dumb. They show up, both divisions show up to that exact same little area with the restaurant that was getting stolen from, the grocery store that was getting stolen from, and several different other places that were being stolen from. And they don't even bring that stuff up way beforehand. I even talked to them about exactly what it was. I used to work right over there. They kept going to the actual office and saying that there was a sleeping room in the back so that I would get into trouble. They wanted me to actually slip up and not hear what they originally said to me so that the people that were driving down the street would have, I don't know, it's my money. I don't get. They tried to use Cash App incorrectly because people were perceived as stupid and would just give them money for no reason. It's the same thing. Follow me around when, what was it, PayPal started doing restaurant orders, and they went psychotic, saying that they couldn't be recorded. They're not doing R&D, they're just making up psychotic stuff, because obviously they would be getting paid for it and somebody else wouldn't be. That's why it's very deranged that they would say that they didn't even check on that one. Keep walking around like weirdos saying that they knew everything. They also stole my Chromebook that I got when they were doing the what was it? They're doing a beta test, and people kept saying psychotic stuff, saying that they had deleted it directly from Google, which means that they made Google more corrupt, and they were laughing about it, sneaking back in and out with fake IDs, not even for security. The red team for specific infrastructure was also misused. That happened in Newport Beach multiple times. And the weirdest one is that they start following them around because they knew their people, and they even said that it's probably a dumb answer. They said that they weren't at least CIA or something, so that they wouldn't actually have to record it, to absolutely catch people for making deranged options show up on how normalcy worked in their city, while laughing at people because it would also show on the actual news stories and everything else that they were constantly doing that. And it was extortion, it was racketeering, and it was also, what was the other one? Walked over and said, yep, and I was working on the Coachella website. They went into the office and then started getting angry that they couldn't figure out who was working on the Coachella website, or who was working on the Burger King website, or who was working on the Cleveland Browns website, or any of that stuff. So they tried to actually remove all the computers from the office as deranged people. Had to call the police on them so that they technically wouldn't come to the office and throw a, what did they do? They threw gasoline that was filled in a water bottle, or forgot to light it, just because they couldn't figure out which part they wanted to say that they were working on when they didn't even apply to the job. There was one person that was actually working on the Burger King website. And they also brought in a kid to say that the kid needed to actually be straightened out because he thought that he was actually a king.
Line
Figuring out
downtown LA, Broadway, and Bennett.
Oops, sorry about that. Let's keep it over. Stealing people's identification and misusing Redfin, because that was the other one that they said they were thinking about just because they had access to something and they haven't gotten caught yet. They're doing with the specific stages and operas where they actually stole the whole stage. Literally, and then misuse the materials directly outside of the opera house.
Approaching Santa Monica and Randolph.
The opera house is also for conventions and also lectures.
Approaching Santa Monica
And
and
they're just
Fair.
throwing surprises and not stop, because they'll just keep saying that they had infinite security clearance when they didn't.
Approaching Santa Monica and Beverly Glen.
Oh, and then they were also hitting people with cars and then running away. There was a Zeus player, there was a CD, DVD player that was left in Newport Beach where people kept saying that it's deranged, but we left a cotton knitted, what's it call it for you, that they probably stole. Yep, and they were laughing about insider trading and then tried to slide a wooden, what was it? They tried chaining their kids in the middle of the road. Their kids were chaining themselves in the middle of the road, and nobody knew why they were trying to change the situation where, what was it, that they had stolen an RV. Several times and never got arrested. Same stuff in the public library, saying that never go that far again, but they keep showing up with the going too far thing. Yep, and they tried to actually say they were doing investigations on the places where I was being interviewed because they couldn't remember it and they thought that it was normal, when normalcy would show that they would have to have reviewed the documentation and everything else on a regular basis, because that was a person's actual job. One of their friends over a balcony in San Jose because I got a plane ticket for an interview.
Approaching Santa Monica and Century Park West.
Infallible only shows up because they believe that there's no attachment to the reality around them. They think they can get away with it. Did the same thing with a fake shooting that was across the street at the restaurant. Did the same thing with a real shooting supposedly in front of the library, but every single time people showed up instantly, they would say that it disappeared continuously for like a week straight, every single morning. Even if you gave them information about what took place, they would still say, that's not what we were talking about, even though it was exactly what they were talking about, because they called the police saying the exact same call that's recorded by the police department. They kind of tried to get Bon Jovi into trouble every single time he exited after he was doing a signing there, several other places. Same thing they did with Bill Krasnitz, the other person who actually had a music career and wasn't part of mainstream, well, part of some sort of mainstream media, but was constantly being blocked while people were actually paying for his performances at big giant stadiums.
Approaching Santa Monica and Avenue of the Stars.
Yep, after I left the Girl Scouts, they tried to say that they were doing internships at the place where I was working next time, and it was a lie. The more they get angry, the more deranged they get. They apply to jobs instead of constantly holding me around with no actual options. And worse, they were hanging out with people that actually have degrees, and those people were trying not to be surrounded by people constantly lying in an instant all the time. They're saying that I'm psychotic because they weren't able to keep record, and they had to keep record. And the same people that have human trafficking so that they can laugh at people. It's weird.
Stop requested. Please use rear exit. Your safety is our top priority. Report any issues by using the LA Metro Transit Watch app. If you see something, say something.
Or they lie, the more deranged they get. Reviews, they say that they're doing, the more deranged they get. They're using people as cushions and crutches. Yep, and their adversaries aren't the only ones with detectives. Yeah, he still shows up as a weird one where they want their adversaries to make slip-ups. So they're building up stories, sometimes too big to even notice that it's reported being extremely deranged and dangerous. Yep, most people don't talk deranged. Yep, and the released AI didn't have any attached header files about certain things. And they had blank files for all the naming conventions, which made it even worse. They were already using Alpaca for plagiarism. That was it. Alpaca was just basically storing all the thesis papers to double check and cross-referencing, and somehow they deleted that whole thing right over there.
Stop requested. Please use rear exit. Your safety is our top priority. Report any issues by using the LA Metro Transit Watch app. If you see something, say something.
Su seguridad es nuestra primera prioridad. Infórmenos de cualquier problema usando la aplicación LA Metro Transit Watch. Si ve algo, diga algo.
Great one. They asked me to bring up the reviews of all the questions on the SAT scores that I took. I said there was 4 of them that weren't actually questions. They were riddles that weren't actually there. And their answer is basically that I got a 1600, but they dropped it down because they had dropped my score previously. And they were saying that I was correct about it because they did put that in specific SAT questions on purpose, just to make sure people were checking. Weird.